Stand here, some here, here, so that you can see. Otherwise, if you are at back, you won't be able to see anything. So you have to come closer. Okay, first I will explain on this side, then I will turn it like this and work for here. So I will repeat things twice, but you can see it now. Okay. Now here you can see this is your external ear, which is having your auricle and external auditory meatus. So this is your external auditory meatus. It is partly bony and partly cartilaginous. Okay. Similarly, the internal auditory meatus, which is shown here. Okay. The internal auditory meatus here, it is basically bony all the way. Okay, but the eustachian tube or pharyngotympanic tube, which is there, it is passing through cartilage on the medial side on the nose. First it is cartilaginous, and then it becomes bony as well when it enters in the middle ear cavity. Okay, first orient with this model. Okay, this is the posterior side of the model. The auricle is here. This is the anterior side of the model. This is your cranial cavity side on the top, and this bone is your petrous part of the temporal bone. Okay, this is the sharp border of the petrous part of the temporal bone. Behind this you are having posterior cranial fossa, where you are having internal auditory meatus. Anterior to that you are having middle cranial fossa. So very much orient with this model, that this is the anterior side, this is the posterior side. Okay, this is posterior cranial fossa, this is middle cranial fossa, this is the petrous part of the temporal bone. Okay, so on this side you also should orient with this, that you are having auricle posteriorly and you are having this part and nose anteriorly. So this is posterior side, this is anterior side. This is your petrous bone. Okay, this is the sharp border of petrous part of the temporal bone here. Okay, so you are having posterior cranial fossa here, where you are having internal acoustic meatus, where you can see the vestibulocochlear nerve there. Okay, and when I turn this model this way, now you can see that this is the posterior side, this is the anterior side. Okay, so this is your external auditory canal here. Okay, and you can see external auditory canal here. This is the tympanic membrane. Since this is the anterior side coming from the nose, so the eustachian tube is present on the anterior side. So remember that auricle is always posteriorly in every model, and opposite side will be anterior. This is the top, where this temporal bone, laterally here it will form the roof of the middle ear cavity, and medially it will form the roof of the internal ear or bony labyrinth. Okay, so when you have seen and oriented about this model, okay, now we can study the middle ear cavity, its boundaries. So in this you can see this is the middle ear cavity here. Okay, and this tympanic membrane is forming its which boundary? Lateral boundary. Okay, this is your lateral boundary. Okay, and here you can see this is the posterior boundary here. This is the anterior boundary, and in the anterior boundary you expect two tubes. One is the eustachian tube, lower one, and another is tube On top of it, it is for a muscle, and this muscle is your tensor tympani muscle. And you can see the tendon of the tensor tympani muscle is attached. If you see here like this, you can see it is attached on the handle of the malleus. I can see that. Okay. So in the anterior wall, two structures, a Eustachian tube and the tensor tympani muscle. In lateral wall, the tympanic membrane with the handle of malleus. So you are now clear concept of the anterior wall and lateral wall. At the top is, here is the roof, below is the floor. Okay, so you have lateral wall, anterior wall, posterior wall, roof, floor, and when you look at laterally over here, you can see this bulge over here. This bulge is your promontory, and you can see promontory is very close to the tympanic membrane. That's why the shape of the middle ear cavity is dumbbell shaped. It's wider below, wider above, but narrower in the center, where the center of the tympanic membrane is very close to the promontory. You can see that. Okay, so these are the boundaries. Repeating for this side, you can see the external auditory meatus, then this is the tympanic membrane. So this cavity is your middle ear cavity or tympanic cavity. Everybody can see this?
No.
You can't? When I did like this, you were not seeing?
No.
You saw this? So I am repeating same thing for these people. Okay, I have rewind my cassette twice. Okay, so you see lateral wall, the tympanic membrane. Okay. And you see like this?